All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back for our build review show. It is Friday, September 27th of 2024. And this is the show where I bring users builds up live on stream, giving them advice as far as contest selection, things that I could think that they can do differently in their builds, giving them personalized feedback and advice in an effort to help them increase their post-contest sim ROIs and help them submit stronger lineups into their contests. So plenty of people signed up for today's show. We do the show Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. So if anybody ever wants to get signed up, all you got to do, drop your DK username in the office hours channel in our Discord server, and I will get you added to a future show. So let's jump right in today. Plenty of people to go over. And we are going to start with Jim, and we are going to be looking at his NFL Showdown build from yesterday. So let's jump in here. We're going to start in the contest tab as always. And first things first, right? Checking out contest selection. Looks like a nice healthy mix of single entry and 3 max. And, you know, one thing that stands out to me, right? Like, hey, you know, I kind of want to stay around this dollar amount as far as entries. So I'm only going to enter 35 lineups in the 150 max. I think that's great. I think that's perfect. So all in all, like what I'm seeing so far here from Jim on the contest selection side. Now let's jump into a build to review. So I'm going to choose the quarter jukebox. If you guys were on office hours, I tried loading up a 350,000 entry contest and it was taking a while. So going to choose this 20 entry max over the 35 entries in the mini max, just because I think it will load up faster with this being 90,000 entries as opposed to 190,000 entries. But contest is loaded up here. Great. Let's go to users. We see Jim right here. So enter 20 lineups. Going to filter for users who entered 20 as well. Sort by sim ROI. So first things first, right? Jim has a really strong set of lineups, 33% sim ROI. Looks like the highest sim ROIs are like 55 to like 65. So a little bit of room for improvement here, but all in all, a very strong start, right? So let's see what we can see to see if we can help Jim increase his sim ROIs here. Average salary looks fine. So average dupes 39, unique lineups 1, under 5 dupes 4, sim average score 87. Now, normally what we do here is we try to figure out, hey, where does this person need to be in regards to balancing average dupes and balancing sim average score, right? So we do this by looking at the top players. So we can do this two ways. Look for someone who has a similar sim average score, or look for somebody who has a similar average dupes, right? In this case, it looks like it's going to be easier to find somebody with a closer average dupes. So 2 players stand out to me, right? These 2 players that are at 64% sim ROI and 62%. They have 38 average dupes and 35 average dupes. So what stands out to me here is that the user with 38 average dupes has a 89.8 sim average score, while Jim has 39 dupes, but an 87.6 average score. So this person basically has 2 points higher sim average score, same dupes, and it helps them to get to closer to 30% higher sim ROI on average here, right? And then if we go and find somebody so then there's one person here with an 87.9 sim average score, which is close to Jim's, right? This person is at 47% sim ROI, so a little bit higher than his, and their average dupes is 16, right? So either one, Jim's average dupes need to come down to match the sim average score, or his sim average score needs to go up in order to play lineups duplicated at this rate. So let's go into his build, see what we can see. But all in all, strong start. Can make a couple adjustments here to get that sim ROI 15 to 30% higher. All right. So increasing number of lineups to 5,000, lowering minimum salary to 40,000. That looks good. See one filter here. Show players with my projection greater than 5, right? This is an interesting one because you are filtering out a lot of players, right? That could ultimately come into play. Like we see that there's actually a lot of ownership for all of these players, right? So I would be careful with a filter like this in Showdown specifically, right? Sometimes playing these lower owned players is how you lower your average dupes, right? When you're playing all these players above 5 points, well, basically all of them have double digit ownership, right? So this could be one thing that you could experiment with is effectively turning this off, at least for the flexes. I'm okay curating your captain player pool here. I think it's okay to come in here and the build kind of agrees, right? I mean, if you just look at the ownerships of the players projected for less than 5 points in the captain, they're all 0% owned, 0 point whatever, right? 0.1, 0.14, 0.09. So on the captain side, builder agrees with you. On the flex side, you're getting rid of a lot of ownership, and players with single digit ownership can ultimately help with duplication. So if I had to make a recommendation, I would say leave the filter, but turn it off for the flex to get access to all these additional players. So that'd be my big recommendation here. All right. So a couple projection adjustments. I think those are fine here. No min or max exposures in the flex. One min or max exposure here for Jalen Tolbert. I think it's okay to be opinionated. So this looks good, right? Couple adjustments, nothing too crazy. Nothing in team stack or stacks. Looks like they used autofill. Unique rank, target ROI, sorting by prize pool. I think it's okay to have 2 min uniques. I don't have a problem with that at all. So all in all, I like what I'm seeing here, right? Strong contest selection, good post-contest sim ROI. I think one thing that we could probably, the one big recommendation, right, is going to be that filter change to help with the duplication, right? Your sim average score was fine if you had lower dupe lineups. So I think that one change can ultimately have a big effect here. So Jim, start with that. I think you're on the right track. Try that out over the weekend here and circle back with me on Monday and let me know how that's working for you. But good lineups, good, pretty lean process here. Couple projection adjustments, couple minimax exposures, and all in all, good stuff. So happy with this one. All right. Next one up is going to be Grady. So let's get Grady up on the screen. All right. Loading up now. Going to jump into the contest tab. All right. So in my opinion, this is really good contest selection, right? Starting from the ground up, dime times, $1 singles, but then he builds up, right? $1 3 max, $1 6. We see $3, $4, 25 cent. And then he just keeps climbing, right? I mean, $15, $15. $1.20 max, $3.20 max, entering a few lineups into the flagship, right? Like contest selection, very, very solid here. So this is a very good example of what to do. All right. Let's go and review these 50 lineups in the Flea Flicker. This will probably be a one that'll load up well. And obviously an important contest for you. All right. So let's go to users. So it's our guy Golden here. When you enter less than the max in a contest, I always recommend going to entries, changing equals to greater than or equal to, and then the number of entries that you enter. So you want to see people on a similar spectrum as you, right? All right, sort by sim ROI. So negative 3% sim ROI. Let's jump in here and see what we see. Salary looks fine. Average dupes is pretty low. Uniques are high. And under 5 dupes is high as well. So I'll say I'm a little surprised to see the negative sim ROI because ultimately, you know, macro metrics here look pretty decent. Okay. So that tells me that we're not very far at all from a high positive sim ROI, in my opinion. Because if we just look at somebody with really similar metrics, right? The first one that stands out to me is M. Pendle here. So Grady's average dupes is 7. Their average dupes is 8. Unique lineups 13 versus unique lineups 14. Under 5, Grady has 28. Under 5, they have 67, but they also have 150 lineups. So that's just one reason it's okay to be different here. But the sim average score comes into play, right? 87.2 versus 89.7. So somehow, some way, we need to get Grady to just play a little bit higher projected lineups. And I think that's just going to push him over the edge right into positive sim ROI territory, like really, really fast. So I don't think there's a ton more to learn here, but I do think that we could probably look at this build and figure some stuff out. One other thing I do want to mention here, you know, look, like Grady lost like minus 170 in this contest, right? Well, we talked about this a little bit on office hours. I think this can be important because I know Grady's a little bit newer to the community here. So sim median profit, right? Minus 129. So we're saying that your most likely outcome is you lose about $129. And then your top 1% outcome is that in the top 1% of sims and the 100,000 contest sims we ran, right? So this would be 1,000 times you won $3,000+ right? So the minus 170 is not, you know, outside the range of normal outcomes and is probably a little bit more common than you might think. Ultimately, showdown contests in particular are very, very high variance. You know, we talk about our profit plan and contest selection framework, right? It always says like play like 2.5 to 5% of your bankroll. On showdowns, I would be playing less, right? On showdowns, I would be playing like 1 to 2%, right? Probably even closer to like the 1% side, just because so many random things can happen in one single game of football. So just be a little bit careful with these type of contests. But other than that, let's jump into the build. Okay, so first thing I would do is up lineups to 5,000. It defaults to 2,000 because the builder can take a little bit longer. And so it's just set to 2, but up it to 5, right? If you have access to 5,000, up to 5,000, you know, work in the extra amount of time required there. So that can be really good, right? Minimum salary down. I like that. I don't, because I do that, so I'm a little biased. Now, let's come in here. So a lot of minimax exposures, right? So being very opinionated here, it looks like I don't know exactly where these values are coming from. I'll say they look pretty close to pool exposure. You know, it's not like some guys like 3% owned and you're jamming them into like 20% of your lineups. So I don't mind the being opinionated here. Like if this is your bread and butter, right? If like this is your bread and butter, this is what you're doing, I think it's cool. Let's go over to flex. some more minimax exposures here. So the only thing I will caution, and this is more, I don't know if this is actually affecting you or not, but sometimes too many minimax exposures can hurt your sim average scores because you're forcing in certain players or certain amounts of players or certain combinations of players where the builder could maybe get to something a little bit higher projected, but it has to prioritize your requests here. So what I'll tell people to do here is like a little experiment is basically go into your contest tab and designate a group of contests or even one contest, right? Like maybe you just take the dime time and you're like, you know what? I'm going to play the dime time with no minimax exposures and I'm going to see how it does. And then you go in the next day, you review the post-contest sim ROIs, and then you play your contests, the rest of them, the way you want to play them, right? And then you kind of compare the two. And then you do that a couple of times, like, hey, am I actually adding value here or am I hurting myself? And you can kind of get a feel for what direction you should continue to go with your process. So some trial and error across multiple low stakes contests can be a really good way of trying different strategies and figuring out which one is ultimately the best way. Because here's another thing, even if they're equal, right? Even if they end up being really, really close, well, how much time are you spending doing all of these things? And, maybe you get back, 30 minutes to an hour every day. And, you get like some life EV out of that, right? So that's another way to think about it. And Grady said, I was making some small exposure changes, but tried to not let the sim go too crazy as it does sometimes. Thanks. You're awesome. Yeah, I totally understand that. So, if the sim is like jamming players, you want to bring those players down, that's just risk tolerance. That's risk adjustments, making sure you're not over leveraged. I'm totally cool with all that. So that all sounds good to me. Used autofill, sorted by prize pool, unique rank, target contest ROI, one unique. This all looks really good. So, final thoughts here. Contest selection is good. Up lineups to 5,000, especially when you're playing so many, right? Playing 332 lineups. Having 2.5x more lineups can be very, very helpful. Maybe do some trial and error across low stakes contests, trying out different strategies and seeing what works and what doesn't. And, put these minimum exposures and stuff to the test and making sure that, they're actually a good thing to do. So that's what I would recommend here. And give that a shot and circle back with me next week and we'll see how you're doing. All right. So good luck this weekend. All right. Next person up. Going to be USNR. So let's get them up on the screen. And we're going to stick with Showdown here. All right. Let's get Saberson back up here and let this build load. Get and jump over to contests. All right. Contest selection wise. Good stuff. Low stakes, balanced, starting from the ground up. Like what I'm seeing. Okay. Let's jump into one of these. Why don't we try the jukebox since that one has been very, very good to us. And you are welcome, Grady, in reference to your latest comment. All right, jumping over to users. WM Floyd is our guy. Entries 20, sort by sim ROI. So good news, right? Positive 21% sim ROI. Top sim ROIs, remember, we're like 55 to 65. So a little bit of room for improvement here. Salary looks good. It's probably going to come down to dupes here, right? Dupes is at 52. No uniques, no under fives. So a lot of duplication in these lineups. Same average score is higher, right? So here, their same average score is like 90. So that's really good, right? Now we just compare, right? Go find somebody else with 90 sim average score. The top sim ROI are 90.7. So pretty close. Average dupes 14, under 5, 7, right? Somebody else at 90, 35 average dupes, 1 unique, 2 under 5. So if we can get this 52 average dupes number down to closer to, 35 or less, I think that we could do a lot of justice here and really shoot up as far as sim ROI goes. So looks like all these lineups came from build 4. So let's jump into build 4. All right, 5,000 lineups, 40 to 50K minimum salary, no filters or rules. Autofill. Unique rank, target ROI, 1 unique. Very, very good. We see an average geo mean, aggregate metric, average salary, average projection, average ROI. These are all ones that I'll use. Let's open up the player table. So no adjustments other than this Giants one, which is kind of interesting because it looks like the actual lineup exposure is not very high. So I'm not sure if this is like an after the fact thing. They were trying to view maybe their Giant stacks or something. So I'm just going to let that one go. And then no adjustments here in the flex. So pretty hands-off build, I'll say. If I were to recommend anything to this user, it's good that they're paying attention to their average geo mean, but it doesn't look like they're actually doing anything with it because I don't see any rules. I don't see any lineup filters or anything kind of along those lines that would actually account for the geo mean. So what I would recommend here is it looks like they have the custom metric, right? We see geo mean here, which is great. And it looks like it's written correctly. I would do a filter, right? The way that I like to do this, come into my filters. And it looks like they have one. It's just not turned on. I don't know exactly why, but I would do the calculation, right? And I would set this up. At a minimum, what I would do is just filter out the bottom 10 to 20% of geomean lineups, similar to the way we do other projections, other filters like projection filters, some ownership filters. But if you wanted to be more granular, I would come in here and do the formula, right? And figure out what you want this to be. So let's just turn this 25 on and see what it does. Okay, we got rid of like 377 lineups. So at geomean 24, we're 684 lineups in the trash. Another thing I would probably do for Showdown is come in here and do target contest ROI greater than 0, right? And this will probably get rid of a lot of lineups. Let's just put these other saved ones back. So the ROI greater than 0 is going to trash a lot of lineups. We're almost like out here, which is interesting. So that could be due to either of these. Let me turn the other one off. So when I turn the geomean off, we gain some lineups back in the pool. So maybe I was a little too aggressive here, right? Maybe I go back to 25 or something like that. Maybe I don't do the ROI, but I don't know. I wouldn't be so upset about rolling with these like 297 lineups in my pool and taking my 235 from there. I've basically determined, hey, they're all positive ROI, and I'm accounting for higher duplication here. So that's the way I would do it. But if having so few lineups in your pool is a concern for you, then you could turn the ROI one off. But these are things to try, right? And to see if anything comes of it. But if you have 52 average dupes, I think that's high. So at a minimum, do the geo mean filter and go from there. So give that a shot. But all in all, good contest selection. Sim ROI was high. We just got to get those dupes down and you'll be moving in the right direction. All right. Next up, it's going to be Pickled Bird here from Discord. This will be our last one of the day. Uh-oh. I think I messed up. All right. Try this again. Yeah, I got you, Brad. I'm pretty sure I saw Brad shipping like 300K like last week and then getting edged out by Garrett Wilson. That was pretty brutal. If that was you, Brad, that was brutal, dude. Like solid lineup. All right. Jumping over to contests. Check out contest selection here. Yeah, that was Brad. Probably battle wounds. I shouldn't have mentioned it. My fault. All right. Contest selection looks really good, right? Ground up here. Always ground up because one day you're going to lose access to these contests, right? And I've talked to like Shady Advice about this. Shady will say like, dude, like my ROIs and low stakes was like closer to like 30%. And now that I can't play them anymore, you know, closer to like 10%, right? Like he said that in the Discord. So even if you're playing high volume, start from the ground up. Even if you're duplicating lineups, that's okay. So good, very, very balanced mix of lineups here. So like what I'm seeing. So this is actually super interesting, right? So Brad, somebody playing, you know, pretty high volume here, right? Is not even playing the Millie Maker at all. Or I don't think it was a Millie Maker last night. I think it was like 500K to first. But like that contest isn't even in his mix. He's, you know, he's starting from the ground up, entry fees low to high. And, you know, basically by the time he gets to maxing out the flea flicker, he's like, all right, you know, this is good for today. So it kind of shows you like with a balanced portfolio of single entry 3 max versus 20 max 150 with a ground up approach, you can get a lot of action down before you even need to play, you know, the biggest contest on any given night, right? So pretty interesting there. All right, so let's do this $5 150 max. This will be the one that we check out for today. So it looks like he's splitting up his builds into 3 separate, right? My 150s, my 20s, my single entries, and 3 maxes. That makes sense. All right, 150 lineups here. So we'll look at people who maxed it. All right, so good news is Brad is positive sim ROI in this contest, right? 10%. He's in the view here, right? This is like the top 15-ish. He's like a top 15 maxer here, just eyeballing it. So that's a good start, right? Looks like the highest portfolios, and you know, this might be like a little out of range. You know, let's see if we can figure out a way to get Brad to be like double this, right? Like he's at 10, maybe we can get to like 20, right? And then he's like a top 5er in this contest. But all in all, you know, this is a good set of lineups. So where we start, salary is pretty in line. Average dupes 9, unique lineups 8, under 556. That's like a really, really strong number there. Sim average score 88. And we're seeing a lot of similar lineups, right? We see like 88.7, 88.3, 88.2. So this isn't bad by any means, right? Let's jump in his 150 sets. Okay, target ROI, unique rank, unique lineups 2. All looks fine to me. No filters or rules, default settings, lineups 5,000. No min or max exposures on captain. No min or max exposures on flex, or maybe like two minor ones, right? Jalen Hyatt, Luke Schoonmaker, and Kevontae Turpin taking a couple shots on a couple lone guys. Don't see anything weird there. Really nothing else here. So like all in all, this is a pretty lean process, right? Like this, like coming in here, it's more about, hey, they're getting value out of splitting up their builds into different sets, being a little meticulous with building the lineups, filling the lineups, and then they're probably getting value from playing all the low stakes and willing to grind those, right? I mean, there's, we don't really see any like projection adjustments, min-max exposures, filters, rules. There's not a lot of tinkering. The uniqueness was good. We saw all of those under 5s. We saw the good sim ROI. So I think Brad is doing a lot of the right things here. And, this is kind of one of those, like, if it isn't broke, like don't fix it or don't try and reinvent the wheel. What I would probably say is, I don't know what like your weekend contest selection looks like, but the more showdowns you play, the better sense you're going to get for how your process is doing. And then if you have a good process, the more slates you play, the quicker you hopefully realize that edge, right? So something I talked about on the build review show, I think like 2 days ago, nobody signed up. So I reviewed my own stuff. So that's what I would recommend here, right? Is it get more action down in those showdown slates, especially if your process is lean, you can do it pretty quick, and you can, you have a good process, right, based on these contest sims. So good stuff, Brad. Keep it up. So if Lamb would have gotten 2 more yards last night, I would have made a profit. Yeah, and then Lamb doesn't get 2 yards, and then you lose like a crap load of money, right? Like that is just how sick showdown can be sometimes. But all in all, good stuff, man. Keep it up. You'll get those 2 yards. All right. Good show today, everybody. And appreciate everybody who signed up. Reminder, you can sign up for this show by dropping your DK username in the Office Hours channel. Get you queued up for the next one, which will be on Monday. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Until then, take care. Good luck. Thanks.